Hello, my name is John Burris, and thank you for visiting me today for this short video on spinal stenosis. Spinal stenosis is a type of back issue, and it causes a pinching of nerves and whatnot, and most people end up having some type of surgery to either fuse the spine or to put rods in or whatnot. So I'm going to share with you today the fact that most people's spinal stenosis has very little to do with the spine. It's actually not the spine causing the problem, so if we look outside the spine, we will find the solution and the remedy to spinal stenosis. So a little bit about my background. I've been in the healing business for 35 years or more. Massage therapist, yoga therapist, yoga teacher, movement educator, body-mind therapist. I've been a lecturer, written books, lots of workshops, lots of study, and I had to heal my own back. And I did that by doing unconventional things that led me in what I call the right direction. So a lot of what I'll share with you today is share with you some information that I've learned, and that information will help you in your own journey of healing. So the first place to start is looking at the model we have. Most of the scientific Western medical models based on mechanism or compartmentalization. And that's based off of the Cartesian model, which is everything is separate, and if you have a pain in your back, it must be coming from your back. Well, that model is severely broken and antiquated. And when it comes to spinal stenosis, basically it's not really accurate at all. So I'm going to show you some real life situations about where your spinal stenosis is coming from and how to cure it. And for most people, if you do the right things, you won't need surgery. And I'll show you what those are. And we'll take you down the road to recovery here. So thank you for joining me, and let's go ahead and begin. Here's a simple diagram of what spinal stenosis would look like in your spine. Usually it could happen in the lower back or middle back or upper back, it doesn't matter. But it shows you how there's a protrusion in one of the cartilaginous discs, and it's pushing outward, and that's causing a narrowing of your spinal vertebrae, narrowing of the vertebral column where the nerves pass through. And that could be problematic. That could be really life-changing and life-damaging if that will cut off a nerve flow to some vital organ or your heart, or it could lead to other things. So that could be bad, but as we see here, that protrusion is along the spine, and here's where the magic happens, and tell you the secret. So here's the exciting part. It's fixable if you do enough of the right things, and I'll explain to you what's going on. Here's the most key moment of all. Bones do not move by themselves, and I don't know why, but most medical professionals don't know that. If a bone is being pushed out of place, either compressed or sliding out of its normal position, the bones have no capacity to do that by themselves. Something else is making that happen. And what that something else is the muscles and the fascia that surround the bones. The bones are essentially swimming in a sea of muscles and fascia. We call it soft tissue. And it's the soft tissue of the body that's pulling the bones out of place. So here's an example I'll show you here. So here's your spinal vertebrae. And there's all the bones in the center. Then around the bones, you're surrounded by soft tissue, fascia and muscles. So when the fascia and the muscles start to harden and become misshapen, they pull the bones out of space, and they start to distort the distance between the bones. It's not coming from the bones themselves, it's coming from the fascia and the muscles outside the bones. So in the normal world, here's our spine. There's 33 normal vertebrae for most people. There's a cushiony space between them, and there's nerves that come in and out, and there's supposed to be space between each vertebrae. What happens is, when the fascia and the muscles become too tight around the bones, then the bones will press together and causing things like slip disc, herniated disc, and spinal stenosis, which is a compression in the lower back. Or it could be in the neck, or it could be in the middle back. It's too much compression caused by the soft tissue. So let me show you another model here. So here's my spinal model here. We have the spine in the middle with all the vertebrae. On the outside of the spine we have the soft tissue, the muscles and the fascia. Now what is fascia? Fascia is the membranes, the white membranes that pretty much keep everything together. So if you were to cut open an orange, what you would see is the white stuff, which would be the fascia, and then the orange, which would be the muscle. So the fascia and the muscle are the outside of the bones. We call it soft tissue. So when the muscles become too tight for whatever reason, injury or a stress pattern or whatever you call it, they start to shorten. And you'll see that as these shorten, they start to pull the spine down, causing compression. So this is your lower back here. Your lower back is compressing and you might have a vertebrae starting to bulge outward. Not coming from the spine. It's coming from the soft tissue, the fascia, and the muscles outside the spine. So what happens in our mechanistic culture, we just treat the spine. We'll do surgery or we'll fuse rods along here and we'll completely ignore what's the real cause is. The fascia and the muscles on the outside of the spine. So in order to heal this, you've got to release the soft tissue. How do you do that? Well, with fascia body work, using your hands, you go to a professional who does fascia body work. You would go do a lot of yoga. Yoga tends to stretch the soft tissue and you get space in here. So the vertebrae now have space again. And you don't have that compression anymore. So, but you've got to release the soft tissue, the fascia, and the muscles outside the spine. Because the bones are not pressing together by themselves. That's a mistake in identification. The bones are being pressed together by hardened, shortened, spastic muscles and fascia that tends to dry out and just stays in a dried out state. Most people who are born as a grape and they die as a raisin because they're doing all the wrong things. They're hardening their bodies and that dries everything out and shrinks it, and you get more compression, and that's why they shrink as they age. So you gotta do is you gotta release the soft tissue around the spine. The spine goes back to normal and the spinal stenosis is cured. Here's a picture of an orange, and you'll see that the white fibers in the orange would be like the fascia in the body, where the orange fibers would be the muscle tissue, and how the fascia wraps through in and around all the muscle. So we're talking about soft tissue, we're talking about fascia and muscle together, and it'd be the fascia that glues it all together and keeps it wrapped up tight. And there you have it. That's the truth about spinal stenosis. It's really not a bone issue, not a spinal issue. The real cause of spinal stenosis is the soft tissue that floats around the vertebrae that will shorten and harden and dry out, causing the vertebrae to pull together, pinching the nerves and causing all kinds of chaos. In order to heal it, you've got to release the soft tissue. Most people do all the wrong things. They might seek surgery first, which causes more scar tissue, more compression. They're going to lock everything down with fusion and rods. Also, core exercises are some of the worst things you can do because you're making a tight situation even tighter. You're locking down a tight spine by more tightness. This would be like if your house were leaning off to the side and you took a roll of duct tape around it and you taped it in place. People think they fixed it. That's the same thing people do with their spinal vertebrae. They think they fixed it by tightening it down. That doesn't work. So the secret here is movement therapy, like yoga or other types of expansive movement, and body work and massage, which helps get the tissue softer so the spine goes back to where it's supposed to be. The key fact to remember here is it's not about aging, not about genetics or your family history. It's about the soft tissue hardening and shrinking and drying out. And bones do not move by themselves. It's not a bone issue. It ends up as a bone issue, but it's the soft tissue around the spine causing the problem. So if you'd like to cure your spinal stenosis, you've got to free up the fascia and the muscles around the spine. Thank you for joining me for this short video on spinal stenosis. If you'd like to know more about me, please visit my website at johnburris.com. And please subscribe to my channel for more leading edge videos. Thank you.